Good evening. Sorry, we're having some technical difficulties. But hopefully it's straightened out now. Mark, where we are.
All right. How you doing, everybody? Thanks for coming for tonight's meeting about State Street sidewalk reconstruction project. I'm Mark Batchelor. I'm the design engineer. With us tonight is Peter Rice, Director of Public Works. Dave DeFos is construction supervisor. Tyler Reese is associate engineer, and Stephanie Seaport is our PR
Public outreach coordinator.
Mark, try to speak up so Zoom can hear you because you're away from the microphone.
Yeah, it might be worth getting next to that.
Will it reach?
It should.
Post it over here. Does that work? Okay. So this project, we have
But would you like the,
presentation.
we'll be putting a presentation on? Hopefully. Select the window. There we go.
Text will it work.
Okay, so the scope of work or limits of construction for this project is essentially State Street from Columbia Street up to mid-block between Winter and Summer Street. And really it's the scope of work is including all the sidewalk that hasn't recently been done. There's been some recent work here in front of the park. When I say recent, I'm not talking like the last couple of years, but have been upgraded recently. And so this is the limits of the work, and what it really entails is essentially replacing the sidewalk in kind as it stands now. So we go to the next one. Okay, so this is generally some photos, as you all know, of the current state of the sidewalks. We have some brick sections that are heavily rutted, and the curbing is tilted out. We have other sections that are asphalt that are cracking and again has settled against the curb. And then we have our typical curb ramps, which are currently missing the ADA truncated dome tiles. They're not really ADA compliant at this point. So this is the current sidewalk conditions. And so just to kind of go over that a little bit more, some of the sidewalk even doesn't meet ADA slope requirements. Also, some of the issues that we're having is that there are a couple of areas that are particularly narrow. So the city snow removal equipment can't fit on. And then the rutted bricks, and then we're also looking at drainage issues. We have identified a couple of locations where there's some drainage issues from the street that are migrating onto the sidewalks, and then the curb settlement as well. So that's the current conditions. What we're proposing to do is replace all the sidewalks with concrete sidewalks that are 5.5 foot minimum width. That'll meet ADA standards as well as the city standards. We're generally maintain the same sidewalk layout. Again, there's a couple of sections that I can go into more detail where we're going to be widening. So there, the curb's going to come out into the street slightly, and the alignment's slightly different. We're in areas that there is grass strips. We're going to be retaining those grass strips, and then all the curbing will get reset to standard vertical curbing, like so this is the first section of the project, which is from Columbia to Union. It kind of shows the new sidewalks on both sides. They're highlighted in blue, and then the crosswalks are highlighted in green. So that's from Columbia to Union. We also brought some drawings, paper drawings that we can look at afterwards. If anybody's got any specific questions. And this is the section from Union to Winter. This is the section where we're we're considering doing some widening of the sidewalks from Cabot over through Winter Street. That'll allow for the city snow removal equipment. And then it continues on up with
Sorry.
our proposal ends on the north side of the street, just as you get to the park. And then on the south side of the street continues up to the Farrell's funeral home, which has new concrete there. So those are the limits on that. So our next steps are public input, which is what this meeting is all about, is to get feedback from all of you. And the next step after that is finalize design and then go out to bid. Our hope is to go out to bid by possibly the end of April and construction sometime in the summer, fall of this year. With that, I open the floor up for questions.
I'll start it. My name's Tom Schlegner. I live at 708 State Street across from the park. The brick project that happened was like 10 years ago. And on the north side of the street, our side of the street anyway, where you're not, where my house is, the curbings obviously fallen out, but they've been there for over 100 years.
40.
And,
About 40.
the curbs that are
About
there
40,
now,
yeah. That's only about that old. Yeah.
I don't think so. No, because they've got the drainage ruts in them, so they've been around for a while, and you used to do drainage ruts 40 years ago. But anyway, the curbing and the brick, as far as aesthetics go, you're leaving the brick on the other side of the street, and you're changing my side of the street to concrete, which aesthetically for that area, which I think is a beautiful area of the city, doesn't work in my mind. And so people think the same way. But I think these bricks have been there for a while. The ruts are probably caused because the foundation of the bricks wasn't done properly. I noticed throughout the city with the other brick projects that they've had, that they put asphalt underneath them. They tried to shore them up so they didn't swell, and they can support the heavy equipment that's been on the streets. They weren't built for the way that we plow streets now. And that section of State Street is one that in part of the snow removal process. So there's been a lot of that equipment bouncing off the sidewalks. And, so basically, I would like to keep the brick. I think it looks better. And if you're going to keep the brick on the other side, I think you can just match it. And I know that Farrell's, it stops at Farrell's because they made an exception at that point. They were putting brick down, but for Farrell's, they made an exception because of the funeral home. He asked for it and they gave it to him. And so, but in front of the house next to them, on the corner of State and Summer, there's brick there. So you're not taking that brick out. So, at least that section where there's brick, I would propose it would be better to keep the brick. You can do better the sidewalks down the street that are asphalt, if we then put concrete, that's an improvement. It's not an improvement, I don't think, to take out the brick. That section of State Street. Thank you.
Yeah, and I will clarify on the concern with the curving and everything. Our intent is to reset that curving that's there. It is, some of that stuff is 7-8 inches thick. I mean, the new curving's not the same. So we are anticipating resetting all that.
So when you say reset, you're going to replace the existing old curving that's there with the new stuff, the new stuff?
No, we
no.
reset the curve.
Oh, so you're going to keep the original
Yes.
granite? Okay,
Reset the 3 years.
yeah, okay.
Hi, Andrea Ballard at 874 State. It's hard for me to see the map from here. I didn't bring my glasses. So are you starting at Madison? I can't tell where you're starting.
No, we're starting at Columbia.
Which one's that?
Columbia is where that little pocket park is.
Okay, if you did the sidewalk on the other, that road, that's the sidewalk. So you're starting there and
Yes.
coming down on the.
On both
parallel-
sides,
Both sides?
both sides, yeah.
Okay, well, it's nice to hear you're doing it because we've had you guys come and reset the curb. We've gotten a flat tire for the curb. So it is a good thing for us, and you guys never plow, you don't do our sidewalk in the winter, you do the
I
other
think
side.
it's because you said some of the sidewalks are too narrow for those machines.
Yes, some of the sidewalks, in some of the locations on the south side also have utility poles that narrow it up even more so that the plow can't fit. So,
I'm
we're-
just wondering what you're gonna, between us, there's a big house and then there's Union, and we have a big drainage problem there, there's no sidewalk, the sidewalk ends, says no parking. Our neighbors often park there, fine, but that is a big drainage problem at the bottom of our driveway at the end of the sidewalk, so I was wondering what you'll do about that, it's always very icy and we have a big problem.
is that the one where the water ends up ponding in front of the steps of the house there?
It might be the one, Jim.
Yeah, it's a big,
The big new house that's there,
860
right at
State Street.
Union, and, State.
So when the sidewalk ends at our house is 874, and then you go past that new big house, there's no sidewalk there, so I don't know what your plans are.
Oh, okay, now I know what you're.
Okay, but
Yes.
there's certainly a drainage problem at the bottom of our drive, we can fit our car in, but it's all AC at the bottom of our driveway, and then people have to, who are walking their dogs, and they have to figure out where they're going next, so I don't know.
It's certainly our intention to fix all the drainage problems. We're also resurfacing the street at the same time. So between the sidewalks and the street paving, we should be able to take care of it.
And you'll probably reset the curb, so we don't keep.
We will definitely reset the curb.
Again.
And I'm gonna add a sidewalk in front of the house there in the corner of Union and State.
Absolutely.
I'm at the corner of State and Winter, so basically I'm at the bottom of that hill, and that's a real serious drainage issue. There's always a puddle out in front. On Winter Street, I get a ton of water in my basement. It's constant. So what are you gonna do for the drainage issues?
We'll regrade as necessary to make sure, but I think what happens right now, and I live, I have a house here, so I'm very familiar with it. Is I think Winter Street, for some reason, is a little bit lower than State Street. So we'll go in there, we might go in Winter Street a little bit, raise the grade up and make sure the water comes out.
There's no catch basin or anything you can put in there, but that's not something.
There's no drainage system that far up, the drainage system ends at Cabot Street.
And one other question I had was, I don't know if this has ever been done in the past 25, 30 years. All the sewer and plumbing work and underground utility work you do on the various other streets, has that already been done on State Street?
No, it hasn't. But the condition of the sidewalks and the road is so bad that we have to act.
Okay.
So we eventually will work our way through the entire city. We've been at it for 25 years now,
Okay.
and it's just, right now, we're working on Willard, and we're working on Union, and that section, and so the areas are kind of programmed our way through, and it's just, things are just at the point now that they're unsafe. So we're putting some money into the road system, understanding that we'll be coming back at some point in our lifetimes to finish. But that's just not programmed at this time, so we're going through and we're fixing the problems.
David Random, 720 State Street. I'm directly across, well, I'm right next to Mark. I'm directly across from Goodman Park. And yeah, I'm between Mark and Tom as I'm sitting. We sat in order.
Just,
I understand that over time, through the decades, things change. And I understand that, but just from a historic and aesthetic point of view, I would just love to see the brick redone rather than just, concrete again. I'd like to see it remain in that nice historic condition, because it's for no other reason than aesthetics, and it's, beautiful. That's,
what would it take to get brick there? I assume the reason is cost, you would, in maintenance.
Well, we have a policy, the policy is brick downtown, concrete everywhere else. So, we, as you know, I was the one that put the sidewalks in on the rest of State Street. back
I
then,
complained then.
And at the time, we didn't have that, we didn't have that policy. So, we're in Middle Street is brick too, so basically the policy says, historic district, Middle Street in the downtown gets brick, everything else gets concrete. You can see that we've done some things like on Islington Street, we've done that decorative brick edge to kind of flare it up some. But in general, try to go for uniformity, really.
So we'd like to try to get some folks that are online. I apologize to everybody. The technology doesn't seem to be cooperating this evening. You would think after 2.5, how many years, 2 years of pain and suffering, we would have this down by now, but we don't. So I see Ben Wellwood, so I'm gonna say, go ahead. Ben?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I was just looking through it. Like, in the presentation, I didn't actually see any of the photos through it. So I really just wanted to look at and see what, okay, doesn't meet ADA. That's what brick surface is. Okay, awesome.
So I apologize, I was having a hard time balancing, so I know nobody saw this presentation, it's online, so we can quickly go through the slides. So people can see them, and then, but you can go ahead and Ben, continue to ask question as I do that.
Okay, sounds good. If you can just go through them, that'd be really, I'd really appreciate that.
Right. So Mark, you wanna?
Yeah.
Hold on, there we go.
All right, so this slide shows the limits of construction, which is from Columbia to mid-block between winter and summer.
Awesome, thank you.
Hold on.
And I'm right there on that corner of State and Cabot.
This slide shows just some photos of the existing conditions of the brick, the asphalt, and the curbing. This slide talks about some of the issues that's associated with the existing conditions, such as ADA compliance. Talks about the rutting in the bricks, the asphalt, the mix of materials, surface materials, the narrow section of sidewalk that's primarily between Cabot and Winter, and some of the issues that we've identified for drainage and the curb settling. And then this slide discusses the proposed work, which would be to get to the city standard of the 5.5 foot wide, and to maintain the city's standard for concrete, as well as it just describes that for the generally we're going to be maintaining the same layout, while at the same time retaining the grass strips where they're currently there, and that the new sidewalks will be fully ADA compliant, and then the resetting of the curbs to vertical, and I clarified a little bit earlier about that being resetting the existing curb, and then some small areas would get infilled if we needed additional curb. And the next 3 slides are just the drawing sets that show the specific areas and locations of sidewalk on both sides being replaced.
Which are really just schematics at this point.
Yep.
All right. And Deminoff?
Yes. So I have a few questions. First of all, I wasn't clear, are both sides of the street being changed to concrete?
Yes. That's
Okay.
the proposed, yes.
Okay. And are the granite curves being retained?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm at Cabot and State. Our brick is in pretty good condition. I, kind of fall into the category of folks who want to maintain brick. But I'm wondering if something similar, I have gotten used to the ones on Islington Street. I like the brick decoration. If, in honor of our brick sidewalks, some sort of brick decoration could be retained or incorporated.
I think that's a reasonable request. We definitely look at seeing if we could accommodate that.
Mhm. Thank you.
Pretty good idea.
Yeah.
Keeping some of the history part of the brick sidewalk, not getting rid of all of it.
Ben, did you have another question?
No, I do not. Everything that you just laid out was very clear. Thank you.
Okay. I'm not seeing any other people in the Zoom. If there are more questions.
You said you were gonna be working on the street itself. Is anything gonna be done to try to manage the speed that people are zooming down that street with? Because we've had some fairly hairy drivers sometimes.
And it's even worse now, well, until with Islington Street being dug up and people are detouring down State. He's right, I mean, it's just, they just don't even think, they just come flying down there. And now there's more traffic than normal, so.
Use 20 miles an hour.
Are there any bump outs around the, are you doing any of the bump outs?
So there are some existing bump outs that we're gonna be maintaining. I think, is that on Cabot?
Yes,
Yeah.
It's on Cabot.
Cabot Street's got 3 bump outs.
So we're maintaining those. We can definitely,
This was not intended to be a street reconstruction project, it was a sidewalk project. So, there's a lot of folks that are requesting traffic calming throughout the city. And, it's definitely something that, we're aware of. We usually start with stealth radar to gain access or gain knowledge of what the speeds are and what types of treatments could be beneficial. Typically, a lot of folks now like speed tables, but they're not really effective at speeds, less than 30 miles an hour. And 30 miles an hour on State Street is very fast.
I think we'd be willing to put the stat up and
Yeah, we'll start
see
the
what,
process.
see what the speeds actually are. Because sometimes they feel different than they actually are. And
But the process is that there's a traffic calming request that goes in. And by talking about it now, you're creating that request. And then we do the data collection and then we review it with Parking, Traffic and Safety Committee. And then we look at options that could potentially be incorporated into the roadway to reduce speeds.
if it's warranted.
If it's warranted.
And I do have one question, does the city have a policy on people's shrubbery that is on the sidewalk? I'm not gonna call
I
it.
chuckle just because it's an ongoing challenge. So,
Okay, because
I know where you.
even if you lengthen the sidewalk, 2 people may still be able to walk down side by side because the shrubs come out so far. And I'm sure the snowplow cuts them back every winter, but they just grow right back again. So is there,
Usually Dougie cuts it back every year. So he did the last couple of years, and I'm always like, Doug, go. They usually hire the painter to trim the shrubs. But that particular sidewalk, as Mark alluded to, is getting almost 2 feet wider than it is now. So there will be enough room to actually walk on the sidewalk, even in the fall before they trim the shrubs back.
But it is an ongoing challenge.
But it is an ongoing challenge.
Not just in that
And
location.
it seems like a lot of the houses that have a problem are usually the really wealthy houses. And I can't understand why they can't. Lucy, do you have a question?
Well, the road's gonna be narrower and narrower,
Slightly, yep,
I
yep.
mean, it's already,
We did check it. It is a little excessively wide now. So that actually helped corral the speed a little bit. Again, we're making minute adjustments, we're not making wholesale gigantic adjustments. But we're
It's not
making it.
gonna- it's not
We're
gonna
taking
be-
it, basically, if you look at where the drains are on the street, they're this far away from the curb, we're gonna move the curb, so the drains actually work.
So is that gonna impact the parking on the street at all?
No. Should not, we never went through all that, so. Figured you guys would ask.
You're not gonna, are you gonna rip up all that asphalt and recreate or just?
No, we're gonna mill and repave, with the exception of maybe Winter Street.
Yeah.
We'll make some field adjustments while we're out there and make sure that it drains. The driveways that right now flood, we'll fix those, so that when we're done, everything's back to work.
So when you do that regrading, where is that gonna direct all the water? Because again, I'm at the bottom of the
So
hill.
Cabot Street's lower than where your house is,
Yeah.
so we wanna get that water to Cabot Street. That's how we're gonna do it. To do it, we have to actually do it.
Because a lot of that bad drainage caused significant erosion, which I've spent thousands of dollars on the front of my house and the curbing having it reset. So I don't want to find myself back in that position again,
And I don't wanna find you in that position.
because I'll come find you.
It's easy to find.
I am very.
I just be right around the corner.
I'm
And,
very easy to find.
and did you have another question? Your hand was still up.
Oh, yes, I just wanted to confirm the sewers are not being done at the same time as the sidewalks.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
This isn't this project, but is there a future project to fix the sidewalk when you're walking to Hannaford's, when you're right across from the new apartments? I have to walk in the street and it's slippery and the winter time is terrible there. Is there any hope that that'll be behind the restaurants?
Mall house sidewalks,
Yeah.
those are all private.
Yeah, those are private.
So they can't do
That's
anything.
why you don't clear it in the winter.
And
Right.
it's a disaster.
I mean,
The
like
only
remote
grocery-
houses?
Yeah.
The only
Yeah.
We
grocery
live in a
store
town
in
that's full of
town.
challenges.
No,
And a
no,
lot
no.
of that is that the roads are really narrow, and sometimes the sidewalks get put in challenging places, because that was the only place to put. So that's another challenge. Hopefully, someday we can overcome that challenge.
Okay.
So to that end, I mean, that area is something that we are working on trying to improve the sidewalks around the entire area. If you notice on Chevrolet Avenue, we just finished putting a new section of sidewalk in. The intent is acknowledging the amount of pedestrian traffic and the amount of people that really want to be able to access places by foot. We're working to improve that. That is one section that is, we're aware of it. It's, it's not
It's challenging,
a simple solution.
right? If it was easy, it would be done by now.
I see Nick has his hand up. Hey, can you hear me, Nick?
Hello, thank you. Yes, I had a question. We're at the corner of State and Union, and it's certainly kind of a unique situation. There was previously a series of garages here, and our house was built in, I guess it was 2011 or 2012, and there's a garage coming down from the residence. But I was curious what they were, if we're getting specific into the plans, if there was going to be like a curb put in front of
We'll
it.
put in curbs, so it looks like normal sidewalk around the house.
Okay. Okay, and I just want to reiterate, I don't know who said it earlier, but there was talk about maybe adding kind of that brick flare. I was just curious, or definitely in support of that as a main artery coming out of downtown.
It also matches.
I'm sorry?
We're definitely gonna take a look at that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Anybody else online that has questions?
What do you do with all those bricks you're gonna dig up?
Most of them get thrown away. That's the honest answer. It is so costly to have somebody come pick all the bricks up that we end up just throwing them away.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah, sure, I do.
Stacy Moore at 837 State, so in between Union and Cabot.
Okay.
I get a ton of water, like my whole front is submerged every time it rains, and I have tons of water in my basement, so I'm excited about the concrete, because right now it's asphalt. But I don't know, would there be plans for a catch basin around there, or like, I don't know, I'm at the lowest part in the whole area, so all the water comes in.
So I think we think, and the design's not done. Okay, but what happened is, here's the history. The early 80s, the city did sewer separation of that neighborhood. I hired a contractor, and I think it went right down your side of the street. That's why all the curbs are all wacky and wonky and everything. I think it was just compaction failure. So I think once we redo everything, we should be able to get the water to drain without adding additional drains. Now, that being said, if we find, once we get into the engineering, that we need to add a drain, we will.
The length of time that there won't be any parking, expect like 4 to 6 weeks.
No, we'll try to do one side of the street at a time, and we'll work up the street methodically, so you can see us coming, and we'll take sections as we go.
You're gonna put a resident only parking sign for what's going on because you're gonna serve the parking out.
All right, Brad.
What if we
Would
would
you like
make
another
signs and
question?
stick them up?
One battle at a time. Brad, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wondered what the time frame was for this project to be done. Like, is it this summer that it's happening? Is it next year? What's the time frame?
Brad, we're gonna endeavor to have the plans done in the next month. Send the project out to bid. Hope to God that we get a contractor, because everybody's busy. There's nobody that doesn't know that. And if we get a contractor, we intend to build this summer and this fall.
Okay, thank you.
I do not see anybody else's hands up in the Zoom attendees. Does anybody else have a question?
I don't have
In
a
the
question,
physical?
but I made a note that one of my concerns is the trees, that the damage to trees that happens when sidewalks get done. And there aren't really very many trees left on State Street that are gonna get impacted. There's one locust there, I think, in that side right across from the park. But I just want to make a comment that that's, I think, an important aspect of Portsmouth at this point is to try to save the large trees that we have left. Yeah, he's got a tree.
I got 2 trees.
He has a tree behind the fence, but yeah,
But the roots go.
it's right out there, right? So
So
anyway.
we in general go out of our way not to damage streets, which I think.
And we have a number of very skilled arborists that are very attentive. So we bring them into the projects and we ask for their input. Maintaining the trees, street trees is very important. We invest a lot in the trees. There's a lot of value, not just from aesthetic, it's environmental benefits. There's a whole raft of, you name it. Trees are our friends, and we they're beautiful. We want to maintain them. Unfortunately, sometimes construction does impact them. We try not to have that happen.
I don't think it's gonna happen.
I agree, but I'm just, there are times when things happen, so.
I became aware of it really because I watched the video of the tree and greenery meeting the other night, and Chuck, who's the arborist,
Yeah.
mentioned it. He said it straight out, trees get damaged when sidewalks get rebuilt.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, so I started paying attention.
No, he's 100% correct. However, there's ways to minimize that potential. But there are, usually what we do is we'll walk the site ahead of time, identify the potential areas of damage, and then figure out if there's ways to avoid it. But thank you, you're right. Okay, so we will post this presentation on the website along with the video recording of this meeting. Obviously, we're available if you have additional questions or comments, please, reach out. This is kind of the fun stuff that we get to do.
So we
interact
will,
with
we'll do
residents.
updates, they're on the webpage, if you go under DPW. There's a project pull down at the top, one of the tabs says sidewalks. So we're doing Panaway, Maple Haven, and State Street together in one contract. They're all in there in the same job, just called sidewalks.
What's the likelihood that the request from Greg that I made is can actually happen? Or is the city so into, we're going to concrete? I know in Cocaine, that was his big thing, change it in concrete. They're easier to maintain, I understand.
And they're less slippery on hills.
They're safer too.
Yeah, but it's the whole thing with, if you were telling me that you were ripping up all the brick on the other side of State Street and we're gonna replace everything so it all look the same, you know, it would maybe be easier to swallow, but if the brick is gonna stay over there, in that section, I really think aesthetically,
So what you're saying
with the
is-
park right there.
When we go across the street, take a bricks away too.
No,
I don't want to. What I'm saying is,
And you're like,
what I'm saying,
I
no,
was gonna leave the bricks. Tom said that I had to bring it out
no, but I mean, but.
because it's not
basically-
fair. Tom's gonna get concrete, he wants everybody else to have concrete.
But, you know, it's just, the other thing too is because I have brick that bleeds from the street onto the walkways into my house. And with the iron fence that I have, with the concrete, excuse me, with the granite that we have around the fence, and we have granite up and down that section. See, that section of State Street is, you know, of the older houses. You know, all those houses were built around the same time, like 1850s. And, you know, so they have some historical value. And I think with the park and what we've done with the park, and how great the park looks,
Sure.
and the church and everything, I just think it just all, it all melts better if you leave the brick.
I mean, it's definitely gonna change the look of the outside of my house,
Yeah,
100%.
mine too.
Having cement,
mine too.
it's gonna have a huge,
I'd much rather all brick, but.
Yeah, because I just think, I talked to him about it on the street when we doing surveys, and it's just how do you get,
Mark,
how do we leave that, you know, the apron that goes into my front door? And he goes, well, we come up 2 feet onto your property, and I don't want that either. But
you
it's
know
all,
that's fault.
Let me, I'll
I don't
clarify.
want it. But you know what it is, I've been at, I think, ever since you moved in, I've been asking for over 10 years for these. Actually, since you did the other side of the street, you know, I didn't know why it wasn't done then. But it
I
definitely was
can't
needed,
tell you about
it was needed at that time. Well, I was told it was just, it wasn't in the budget. So, but
it. I'm sure that's true.
you know, but it's, you know, I think an exception to the rule, looking at how it looks, and, you know, where you're gonna widen the street and, you know, down by Winter to Cabot, you know, that little section there, I would see making that brick, because, you know, it's not the same. It's probably better because you can widen and straight and try to fix stuff there for that corner, but I think from Winter Street up, you know.
We'll take a serious look in your request.
Because you got 1, 2, 3.
Understand? We'll take a serious look
If
in
the
your.
Forbes were here, they would probably say so.
And Cabot Street's perfect. I mean, you know, we'll take a look at it.
Forbes that don't leave. Okay, thank you.
I think the sign thing you put up is really great for
Thank you.
engaging the public.
Right, because we noticed that when we put little flyers in people's doors,
That was really,
they don't take the surveys, they don't read the little flyers.
it's really
You
irritating
can't
when
miss
people
the
stick
message board.
something on my door. But the sign still got, that was,
You can't miss the sign.
no, it was right in my window, so it was.
Right.
But no, I think it was good, because it was very, it was
You're welcome for that.
formative. It was formative.
I was real happy till they said concrete.
so, and again, that was something that was mentioned in the video that I watched at the greenery meeting, and they said, we have a hard time communicating to the public, you know, they have all these outreach things, but getting people involved is difficult, and that really, it really was right in your face, and we could see it, it was great.
We
Appreciate
can't,
it.
we
Thanks.
can't force people to look at the website
Right.
to figure out what's going on.
It's hard. Yeah, so anyway,
So-
it's good.
That being said, we have a limited number of signs.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't have enough available. to put them out, we try to get the signs up for these types of meetings.
This
I
time.
don't want to I'm gonna disappoint people at some point, but
Like you're setting the stage for it.
out of the gate.
Prepare yourself to be disappointed.
I'm wearing blankets, sorry.
The nice new fancy sidewalks, does that mean you're gonna move the snow removal down further? You know, you have the second snow removal and everybody else, but those of us on the.
When you mean down, like down towards Middle Street?
They're down by Union.
No, we don't wanna move our car again, so we're happy. to-
No, you're talking about the driveway.
Yeah, but the second time you remove all the snow from the sidewalks, the second time we have to go move our cars, you stop right at, I can't remember where you stop.
So are you saying, don't go, where are you saying, like, don't do the section from,
I think she's talking about our sidewalk because we're one of the narrow
Right, I'm
sidewalks.
just asking, with this nice new sidewalk, are you gonna move your snow removal down further?
Down a block, start
Yeah.
From Union up towards the.
During the storm or after the storm?
After,
oh, for
Snow
loadouts?
removal.
I actually was
Please don't.
contemplating whether we eliminated that whole section, to tell you the truth,
good.
not to do the loadout.
Have you ever tried to drive down that street
I have
coming
tried,
from Hannaford when there's snowbanks?
Or walk.
I have,
Or walk to Pick and Pay?
Yeah.
It's the only store in town. And you
And
can't
you
walk
can
there.
walk to.
Grocery store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, now they're gonna do it.
no, we wouldn't do anything. Yeah, we,
Plastic.
well, obviously people need to be able to park their cars, and we do loadouts, and we do mini loadouts for areas that are restricted by snowbanks, in addition to the larger downtown loadout. The cost of those loadouts is about $45,000 a night. It's very expensive, it's very labor intensive, and, obviously, we want to make sure you have parking. To be able to.
But that's nighttime loadout.
That's nighttime loadout.
Right.
Right,
So
You're talking about
specifically, well, I'm just saying, maybe we stop doing it at night, but we start doing it during the day.
right, and we're looking at that, so.
Because it's a neighborhood and not in an area that people really want to listen to the loadout equipment all night.
Right, so what we would plan on doing, we post the street to say we're gonna, there'll be no parking for daytime, and then go in the daytime.
It has been done in the past.
Yeah,
You know, when we've had really bad, we
Yeah,
haven't had a huge snowstorm.
Two thousand 15,
It's been a while.
right,
Uh,
yes. Snowmageddon,
30 days plowing. 28 days of snow.
right?
Winter Street was closed for a month. Right?
Yeah, it really looked like winter, yeah.
That's the name.
We've been there for 42 years, so, it's
Let's make sure we're not seeing anybody else up top here. All right, well,
check the chat.
chat,
Oh,
no, I don't, that's the, if I check the chat, then I know what people are saying.
Quick exit to compromise this.
Oh, that red buzz, beautiful.
Oh, the
That's the-
red side.
yeah, make sure, you have to make sure you take extra precautions around that, that big stone.
Where's that one at?
Union, no,
No.
Cabot and State, right there in the corner.
Behind the fence.
Fence could use a little work, but the tree's beautiful. That tree's gorgeous.
Yeah, that is,
Okay,
especially in spring.
Yeah, it's stunning.
okay. Well, thank you all for coming out,
Thank you.
Thank you.
and we look forward to making some improvements out there.
I just want to thank all of you. I know it's a tough job, but I don't envy it at all, balancing all the different issues and sides.
Sometimes it's better days than others.
Well, I'm sure, but I just wanted to thank you. Thank you for listening.
At least the crabby old lady in the corner of Winter and State's gone. One that used to scream at you when you did the sidewalks. And
I missed that.
you weren't living here then. Oh.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm gonna turn the recording off.